Told you about gold here at record highs, and it is telling us something. Usually it would tell us that the dollar is in real trouble. I think, and I am guessing at this now, but I think what this is telling us is that the whole world, the whole system is in trouble. And let me give you an example. I'm gonna talk to you about something to try to make sense of it here, but I don't have a good answer because we're not having these conversations. I have told you for almost 20 years when it comes to AI, we must have these conversations now because the world is going to change overnight, and we are at that point. We are at the point of singularity where there is no turning back, and we haven't had these conversations. Do you want to win the AI war? I will tell you, we cannot lose it. But to win it, we may have to sacrifice so much on the altar of liberty that I don't want to fight it. So what do we do? Let me explain. Something has shifted in the world, and most people cannot feel it yet. But if you're paying attention, you understand there is something on the horizon. One day soon, we're going to wake up and we're going to realize, I think we crossed a line here. Quietly, silently, while no one was paying attention, everything changed. Over the past few days, while the world has been paying attention to what is going on in Israel and the Middle East, there's a couple of other really important headlines that have caught my attention. And at first, they all seemed unrelated, just random stories from around the world. But when you look closer, and this is what I think I do best, I take things that are seemingly unrelated and say, wait a minute, I think they all fit into this category. So let me give you some threads here. First thread is China. Beijing just tightened its grip on rare earth elements. These are the minerals that make absolutely everything possible. Your smartphone, your electric car, your missile defense system, your refrigerator. Everything depends on these rare earth minerals. China, because of our inaction and stupid policies over the last couple of decades, control now 80% of the world's supply chain. That cannot stand. Now what they're doing is they're choking it off. They are now closing it up, and they are threatening the West. No more rare earth minerals. If that happens, we cannot defend ourselves. Do we have rare earth minerals? Yeah, we have lots of them, but we're not mining them. It will take a decade to start mining them up in Alaska, where they mainly are. That's why Donald Trump was saying we need Greenland. That's what he was saying, rare earth minerals, because they're already mining them there, and we cannot lose them. Now, they're choking it off, and rare earth stocks exploded overnight, because whoever controls those minerals controls the future. Now, here's the second thread, the Pentagon. Out of nowhere, they made a $1 billion emergency order for those same rare earth minerals. That's not normal. That's not paperwork. That is the sound of a military quietly preparing for something, a shortage, possibly in a storm. Like I said, we are, because of what Biden did in Ukraine, we are wholly unprepared for any kind of military action. We don't have the materials. And at the same time, everything is changing to high tech. We don't have the rare earth minerals and the chips now to make our guided missile systems. The third thread, JP Morgan Chase, one of the most powerful institutions on the planet, just announced this week a $1.5 trillion investment plan in what they called security and resilience. That's not going to mom and pop shops. That's not going to community loans. That money is being funneled straight into AI, defense manufacturing, and critical minerals. It's as if the Pentagon and Wall Street just linked arms and decided to build a fortress economy together. Then came the fourth thread. Nobody paid attention to this one. In Europe, the Dutch government just seized control of the Chinese-owned chip maker on their own soil. They invoked emergency powers and nationalized the company to stop the Chinese influence over the semiconductor industry. That's not good. 4 stories, 4 continents, 4 quiet tremors in the ground. When you weave them all together, that's when you begin to understand what all of this means. So let me try to do that. The old world, as we know it, is dying. The world of free markets, the world of open trade, individual enterprise, the world that lifted billions out of poverty is being replaced now, slowly but surely, by something new. And this one is being done in the name of security. And I don't have an answer for this. This is why we must pay attention and talk about it now. Corporations now are aligning with state power. Before, we had the tech industry aligning itself with the government to control speech. This is the government aligning themselves with tech, rare earth minerals, etc., to be able to win the AI war. All of this is a single unspoken motive, and that is the race to dominate artificial intelligence. This is the new arms race. This is the new Manhattan Project, the new nuclear weapon, except this is 1,000,000 times more enslaving than nuclear weapons could ever hope to be. Whoever masters this first, whoever gets to AI and AGI first, will control the economies, the information, even your thought itself. Every rare earth mineral, every chip, every line of code, they're all ingredients in that same contest. And the nations are moving fast. They're hoarding materials now. We're beginning to seize companies. They're building walled-off supply chains. This is happening on their side and our side. And the free market in this particular place is no longer free. It's being drafted into a digital Cold War. Now, that sounds bad, but now let me tell you the danger that nobody seems to get. When nations go to war, even an economic war, freedom always becomes a casualty. We tell ourselves we're fighting for liberty, and we are, because we don't want to live in a society like China, right? I don't. But when survival's on the line, governments tighten control for our own good. They regulate, they ration, they censor. And one day you look up and you realize the line between democracy and technocracy is gone. If the West wants to win this AI war, and we must, then we have to have a conversation. Why are we even fighting this war? Because if in winning it we become China, why not let China just win? If we adopt the same top-down control, the same surveillance, the same merger of government and corporate power, then what did we actually win? Didn't we just trade one master for another? The old global system, free enterprise, open markets, individual liberty, it is being rewritten in real time. And the threads are now all coming together, and they're weaving a new tapestry. I don't know what the tapestry looks like. I can guess at what that tapestry looks like, and I don't like it. Will it be woven from freedom, or will it be woven from fear? If we lose sight of who we are, look, our global leadership, it's already lost sight for who we are. They don't care. They don't care. None of them care. They'll get to this global dominance over the individual one way or another in their book. You must care. You must stand for freedom. You must be at the head of having this conversation. Because if we lose sight of who we are, this tapestry is going to be strong, efficient, and unbreakable, but it will not be free. And someday, historians are going to look back at this moment and they're going to, what happened? They're going to see these quiet headlines, these invisible decisions that are being made right now, and they'll realize this is when the new world began. They will be able to look at this point and say, this was it. Why didn't people see it? The answer to that is obvious. We're overwhelmed with everything that we have to do, everything we're looking at. This has been a very well-planned takeover of freedom. You have to ask yourself, when the weaving is done, whose pattern will we be living in? Because that's what is coming. There's a story in the show prep today that I really want you to read. I'm going to talk to you about it here in a second. Western executives who visit China are coming back terrified. You don't have any idea how far China is ahead of us. And you can say, well, I don't want to be China. Well, you will be China, and China will be controlling you if we don't push back. But how do we push back without becoming China? Listen to this next story. You can find it in our headlines if you just go and get the free email newsletter at glennbeck.com. Western executives who visit China are coming back terrified. I'm going to explain it to you coming up in just a second. First, let me tell you about our sponsor this half hour. It's Jace Medical. Headlines this week have been a mix of relief and reality. Good news in some places, and chaos and uncertainty still, just one turn away. If there is one thing the past few years have taught us, it's that supply chain systems and stability can change overnight. And when that happens, the most fragile link is sometimes the one we take for granted, our access to the medications that our family needs. Jace Medical was created for exactly that reason. They put emergency antibiotics and essential medications into your hands before you need them. You just fill out a simple online form. A licensed doctor will review it, and your Jace case will arrive filled with real prescription-grade medicines for life's what-if moments. It's not fear, it's responsibility, because being prepared is not paranoia. It's what keeps small problems from becoming emergencies. Whether that's a storm or a delay or a crisis halfway around the world, your family deserves the peace of mind that comes with Jace Medical and their Jace case. Be ready before the world reminds you why you need to be ready. When you order your Jace case today, use the promo code BECK, B-E-C-K. You're going to get a discount on it. Go to Jace, Jase.com. Get a discount at Jace.com. Promo code BECK. 10 seconds, station ID. I am in Washington, D.C. I'm actually at the Rush Limbaugh Studios at the Heritage Foundation. I can't thank them enough for the short notice. I was invited to the White House over the weekend to join the president in honoring Charlie Kirk on his 32nd birthday today by receiving the Freedom Medal. And I'll be there along with a lot of other people, and I really can't wait to experience that and hope to have some time with the president later today to talk about some other things, because there's a lot of things going on. By the way, you can watch this ceremony at TPUSA, Turning Point USA YouTube, and the Rumble channels at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And I hope to see you there. And I'll be back in the studios in Dallas tomorrow to give you more about that as we continue. Okay, so let me give you this story. Western executives visit China who are coming back terrified. Quote, "It's the most humbling thing I've ever seen," said Ford's chief executive about his recent trip to China. After visiting a string of factories, Jim Farley was left astonished by technical innovations being packed into Chinese cars, from self-driving software to facial recognition. Their cost and quality of their vehicles is far superior to that on which I see in the West. We are in a global competition with China, and it's not just EVs. If we lose this, listen carefully, there is no future at Ford. If we lose this, there is no future at Ford. Another executive, this one from the EU, says, "I can take you to factories in China now where you'll basically be alongside a big conveyor belt and the machines come out on the floor and begin to assemble parts. You're walking alongside this conveyor, and after about 800 meters, a truck drives out. And there are no people involved." Other executives describe a vast dark factory where robots do so much of the work alone that there's no need to even turn on lights for humans. We visited a dark factory producing some astronomical numbers of cell phones. The process is so heavily automated that there were no workers on the manufacturing side, just a small number who were there to ensure the plant was working. You get this sense of change where China's competitiveness has gone from being about government subsidies and low wages to a tremendous number of highly skilled, educated engineers who are innovating like mad. Between 2014 and 2024, the number of industrial robots deployed in the country rocketed from 189,000 to more than 2 million. It is. Just let me give you this. Last year, China added 295,000 robots. Germany added 27,000. The U.S., 34,000. The U.K., 2,500. The U.K. is over. It's just absolutely over. It boasts 567 robots for every 10,000 manufacturing workers, 449 in Germany for every 10,000, and 307 for the U.S. So I'm not preaching this because this is, good for the country. It's bad for workers. It's bad for workers. But China is doing it for a couple of things. First of all, their policy is known, I can't pronounce it in Chinese, but it translates to replacing humans with machines. In China, they don't need to have a Patriot Act, a really super great thing for auto workers. No, replacing humans with machines is the name of their policy, okay? And it's happening everywhere. They can develop and execute models in probably half the time that most European car makers can make. And they're doing it partially because they see the decline in their birth rates. And they know we're not going to have the workers to be able to do this. But what's disturbing is all of these robotics are needing power. They also need AI. So they are building these gigantic server farms, which we are still breaking ground on. They're building them. They're building new power plants. One power plant, coal-fired power plant, every week. And I think 40, can you look this up, Stu? I think it's 40 nuclear power plants a year. We're not building anything. We're breaking ground on it. Trump has already said he's cutting all of the regulations, but we're still far, far behind. And we are getting close to the point where they win, we lose. Again, I don't know what to do about it, except have a conversation about it. Because I've read the conversations from the left. I've read the conversations from the World Economic Forum. And they don't care. They will take you and literally put you in a drugged state and put you online, and you're just going to play video games your whole life. That is honestly their plan for a large number of people in the West that will just be no longer usable, undesirables. Well, I don't like those labels. I didn't like them when the Nazis said them. I certainly don't like them when the World Economic Forum says them.
This is Glenn Beck.
More from Washington, D.C. here in just a second. First, our sponsor this half hour is Chapter. There is a clock ticking, and if you're 65 or older or your parents are turning 65, it's counting down to December 7th, a date which will live in infamy. That is the date that Medicare opens enrollment, and you miss it, and you could be stuck with the wrong plan for an entire year. Higher costs, limited doctors, and surprises you just can't afford. It changes every year. They change. Coverage shifts, prescriptions move, tiers, the providers drop out. The plan that worked for you last year might cost you thousands more. That's why Chapter exists, to help you get it right. Chapter's licensed advisors are not salespeople. They're advocates. They work for you. They don't work for the insurance companies. They analyze every plan in your area. They're the only ones that can do this because it's a tech company. They show you exactly what fits your needs and budget, and they'll walk you through it, and you can switch in minutes. You deserve to spend your retirement enjoying life, not decoding insurance and paperwork. Don't wait until it's too late. Get in now. If you're on Medicare or will be soon, or your parents are, reach out to Chapter. Call them today. Dial pound 250. Say the keyword chapter. Free honest advice. Keyword chapter at pound 250.
Get the free email newsletter at glennbeck.com. Get every story we talk about every day.
From the Heritage Foundation in the Rush Limbaugh studios. By the way, love the tip of the hat to Rush Limbaugh. Kevin Roberts is here. He's the president of the Heritage Foundation, one of the bravest guys I know, one of the smartest guys I know, and doing a lot of great stuff. The president kind of distanced himself from Project 2025, which is a heritage, if I'm not mistaken. But recently, he's come out because Russ Vought is really kind of the architect of a lot of 2025 stuff, right? And the president has seemed to be a little reluctant to get down to it and just slash. Russ, I loved Mike Leasing. He said Russ has been waiting for this since puberty. We have the shutdown. The president looks like he might unleash Russ. That's really good news because I've been waiting for this. Are we going to do it?
I think we're going to do it. And the reason we're going to do it is in every other policy area, Glenn, and it's great to be with you, by the way.
Yeah.
Welcome to Heritage.
Yeah, thank you.
In every other policy area, the president has been so courageous. I mean, think about what's in the news today with Israel. Think about creating peace all around the world. And for the first time, and as long as I can remember, maybe since I was going through puberty, we're actually winning the messaging on a shutdown.
Crazy.
It is. But the conservative, not just the conservative base, but the American people, well, they want real substantive reform. That's what they voted for last November. And we're not going to get that unless Russ has the opportunity to work through these reductions in force of back office personnel, to actually work through a responsible reduction in the size and scope and expense of government. That's a kind of long-winded way, Glenn, of saying I've got great faith that President Trump has already told Russ, go for it. Let's get this done.
So when? I'm sorry, I'm just like a kid in a candy shop.
I'll be clear.
When?
I don't know when because I'm sitting here on the outside very happily,
yeah.
But I can tell you, you referenced our transition project. Since 1980, when Heritage started the first of these, which we called Mandate for Leadership, we've been talking about a reduction in government. This is the first time we have a real opportunity for this to actually happen. So what I can tell our friend Russ and our friend President Trump and Vice President Vance, something they know, which is that tens of millions of Americans voted for them for precisely this to happen. Full speed ahead. Keep doing the wonderful messaging that every single member of the cabinet does.
Like what should they be cutting right now?
Well, look, when they took office several months ago, there were nearly 2.5 million federal employees. We did an analysis over the years at Heritage, which suggested that you could have a third as few of federal employees. You could have fewer than 2 million employees. That's a way of saying that when the left says, oh, you're cutting the scientists and all the essential people, not at all. You're cutting people who are doing layers and layers and layers and no private business. Could you have that kind of excess? No. It's nothing against those human persons who are occupying those jobs, right? We care for them. They're fellow Americans. But some of them, let's remember, are ideological hacks who have been protected by an overwrought civil service protection that needs to be reformed as well. At Heritage, we're saying, let's rip the Band-Aid off and let's do this once and for all.
So what happens? Russ does this. What kind of lawsuits follow? Can this be permanent?
Some of it can be permanent. And again, speculating with some information about how one might go about this reform theoretically, there are probably hundreds of thousands of jobs in the federal government that could be cut permanently without any lawsuit that actually has substance behind it. We're not talking about just unilaterally eliminating XYZ agency. We're talking about going agency by agency at budget lines and eliminating duplicative jobs, the very kinds of things that every private business, especially a small business, has to do. This is common sense reform. But ultimately, to kind of come back to your opening question, Glenn, it needs to happen now. You've got in Speaker Johnson a legislative leader who is outstanding on the substance and the messaging of this. He's actually popular with the American people.
Crazy.
Press the advantage. Now is the time. And I can tell you, going back to your comment about our transition project, Heritage led 110 other conservative groups in this transition project. The conservative base is there. The American people are there. We want to see this happen.
I will tell you, I've been saying for the last couple of weeks that if the president would just figure out a way to make sure airplanes don't fall out of the sky, that the military is paid for, that the checks to the elderly and the hungry are making it home, just take care of the essentials that the Constitution says we're supposed to, nobody would really see the bad impact. And you let this go for 8 weeks, as long as the airports are running fine, as long as everything is running on time, that the average person, they're going to get to a point where they're going to go, why do we have all these people? Non-essential really does mean non-essential.
No, it's true. I was in Dallas Airport Sunday, coming back from watching my Longhorns beat the Sooners, which is awesome. And an acquaintance of mine who's reasonably conservative said, isn't the shutdown awful? And this turned into a kind of a public conversation at this gate at the DFW airport, where I said, well, it's awesome. It's awesome because we're not cutting the scientists, which was her accusation. We're not cutting essential employees. There are TSA agents here. There are air traffic control people on the tower. There are no delays at the airport. We're paying the troops. These are all matters of justice. How about we cut the fat? And it's just common sense to the average American, Glenn, that there is a lot of fat in a budget that has created a $37 trillion national debt. If we have any hope of turning the corner economically, financially, fiscally in this country, it starts with this shutdown.
I just did a monologue on the price of gold. A little terrifying. What is that telling us?
A lot terrifying.
Price of silver, a little terrifying. And then the grab and control of China of the rare earth minerals. And I don't know how to solve this one, because right now we're doing some things that we have to do to be able to win this AI race, because if we don't, China will win and we'll all be China. But if we fight it in the wrong way, we'll just be an American version of China. I don't like these public-private partnerships, et cetera, et cetera. Where do you stand on that? What are your thoughts on this?
Generally speaking, I and all of us at Heritage do not like the public-private partnerships. And at the very least, giving the administration benefit of the doubt, we would like more details about how they're going to work. But you make a really good point that it's not a choice between either allowing China to totally co-opt us, which is the path we were on under Biden, or basically to mimic China and become a weaker version of China. We need to be America. We need to have full-throated endorsement of free enterprise and the free market here, with one exception. Anything that is in the realm of national security, even my most strident libertarian friends say, yes, of course, Kevin, right now, the Chinese Communist Party is the greatest adversary we've ever faced. Let's focus on that. So that's a way of saying, I think the solution to this, which is pretty elegant and largely broadly supported on the political right, is focus on national security. Let's make sure that we are ending the ridiculous over-permitting and regulation of our own rare earth minerals. Let's also make sure, if I may make this point, that Lockheed Martin and Raytheon don't have what is, in essence, a duopoly on military. Yeah. We want them to be involved. The good men and women, they're good innovation, but there's even better innovation coming from smaller businesses.
Big time.
That is what really needs to be honored. And I think if we do that, within a couple of years, Glenn, it's going to be obvious to Xi Jinping and his cronies that the United States is back on a level footing with them.
So how do we solve the energy problem? President Trump said, I'm going to eliminate all these problems. We can build nuclear power plants, et cetera, et cetera. And I want that to happen. And I think the government does need to be involved, at least in just deregulation of everything, while keeping enough regulations to keep us safe. But we need massive build out. We, under FDR, it was, the government that built all the dams and everything else. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about how this is rolling out? And are we making progress on this? Because I don't see massive power plants being built. And without it, we're going to have rolling blackouts and brownouts all across the country.
I agree with your diagnosis fully, and I have been worried about that over the years. I'm more optimistic now because I've had several meetings around the country with people who are investing in micro nuclear plants. And if the government does two things, number one, get out of the way, which specifically means stop the over-regulation, the over-permitting of any kind of nuclear, including these small areas.
Which are completely different than the old ones. And the old ones were the safest energy we've ever made in the history of man.
Yeah, that's right.
But these are even better.
And then secondly, let private business do what private business does. That private capital is going to flow into those places. I mean, think about places in southwestern Pennsylvania, which of course should have more coal plants.
I know.
But micronuclear is at least the best short-term strategy, especially as we think about all of the energy usage of these data centers and of AI. And so I'm real keen on that.
They will get it first.
But we need another 18 to 36 months of this in order for us to have any hope that in 4 or 5 years we aren't going to have rolling blackouts.
It's an amazing time we live in, isn't it?
Look, my kids ask me, they're teenagers, early 20s, and they're optimistic because of their faith, their supernatural level. But even more than that, or in addition to that, I should say, they are still very optimistic about America. And do you know why? Because they tell me, and they're all Trump fans, all Vance fans. They said, Dad, these men and the men and women who are in the cabinet, we know, fight for us and fight for America. And even when they might get something wrong or maybe half wrong, it's so rare. And they tell me they're just so optimistic about the future. When I hear them say that, and my wife and I don't coach them to say that, I can't help but think that these very challenging times, we think about the assassination of our mutual friend Charlie Kirk, we think about all the nonsense that goes on. God has put us here at this time and in this place.
What an honor.
And we can both fight and be zealous and firm as you are every day, while also being cheerful and attracting people into this movement, because it's a movement about the future of America, the future of truth, and we get to do it. It's totally awesome.
And there's a change. Since the Charlie Kirk assassination, there's a massive change of hope that I think comes from the spiritual movement that has been going on. I just purchased a book, a Bible, one of the first Bibles to be printed in America. We couldn't print a Bible under the king, for 200 years. We win the war, we go to Congress, and we start printing Bibles. First one is the Aiken Bible, and that was for use in schools. And it's the only Bible that is endorsed by Congress. It says it on the front page, an endorsement of Congress. The Bible we just bought was the one that was sponsored by George Washington. And so at the top, because they were so expensive to print, they would go to rich people and say, hey, can you sponsor the printing of this Bible? They would put a lot of money in it so others could buy it. So all of the sponsors, George Washington, the vice president, and his entire cabinet, the testimony of Christ. We got that and we thought, we're still doing our investigation, but we are really pretty sure that is the last time a president, vice president, and cabinet has testified to the truth of the gospel from that time until Charlie Kirk's funeral.
As you were telling me the story about the Bible, which I just learned as you were telling me this, my historian head was going through quickly, although I definitely was listening, Glenn. Promise you, my friend.
You can multitask. I got it.
A little bit. I was
me too.
I was thinking, has there been another event like that? No. Not until Charlie's memorial service.
When almost all of the cabinet, the vice president, the president, all stood up and testified of Christ. It was incredible. And people will say, oh, that's fascist. No. Look, the last time it was happening is when we first had liberty under George Washington. Isn't that crazy?
It is. I remember when I was leading this college of faith and we rejected student loans and grants because we wanted to remain independent. We had people who didn't share that faith. This is a Catholic college who emailed me. In fact, there was a kind of an atheist guy from New York who emailed me and said, I don't agree with your faith, but I know that if that gets violated, all of my rights get violated too. Yeah. And it stuck with me as a common sense endorsement of what Americans in our founding and sense have known.
Thank you so much. Thanks for everything.
Thanks for being with you, man.
Appreciate it. From the Heritage Foundation, Kevin Roberts. So let me tell you about our sponsor this half hour. This sponsor is Patriot Mobile. It'd be bad enough if your mobile company was only giving you the shaft in terms of high monthly bills, but they're doing that, yes. But they're also adding insult to injury by giving you some of your hard-earned money to causes that you don't agree with. You agree with Planned Parenthood? Social campaigns, activism that works against the values that you hold dear. I don't want a dime going there. But if you're with Verizon, you're actually helping subsidize Planned Parenthood. No, thank you. That's why Patriot Mobile exists. They're America's only Christian conservative wireless provider, and they're built on the idea that you shouldn't have to compromise your values to get reliable service. And they use the same nationwide networks as the big guys, so you get excellent coverage, all the 5G speeds without the woke strings attached. Now every bill that you pay helps support causes you actually believe in: religious freedom, sanctity of life, first responders who protect our communities. Switching is easier than ever now. Activate in minutes from the comfort of your own home. Keep your number, your phone, or upgrade. Make the switch today. PatriotMobile.com/Beck or call 972-PATRIOT. Use the promo code Beck for a free month of service. PatriotMobile.com/Beck, 972-PATRIOT.
Here's a friendly tip. Always drink upstream of the herd. If you know, you know. Glenn Beck.
You know, last time I was in Washington, D.C., my wife and I were walking down the street, and some black guy on a bicycle started circling us and saying, "Today's the day I'm going to kill me a white man." And, you know, as enjoyable as that is, sure, on any American street, I didn't get that. Now, I've only been in Washington, D.C. for about 6 hours, but I didn't get that. And the train station is not a homeless encampment.
Aww.
So things are kind of looking up.
Wow, that sounds like a fun trip so far.
So far.
That's. I'm sure this won't be the case in New York when they give away free buses under Mamdani. That won't turn into every one of those won't be a mobile homeless encampment.
Well,
that's definitely not going to happen.
It's not so much worse than what Spanberger, wants to do in Virginia when she is governor. I mean, day one, she wants to make it a sanctuary state. And she thinks that it's a distraction for local police to work with federal police, which I've never heard it described as that. But, it's at least new and interesting. We have the current lieutenant governor, Winsome Earl Sears, on with us here in just a second. We're going to talk about her campaign. She's 5 points behind?
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah, Spanberger, and those numbers are starting to close. Hopefully, Virginia will come to its senses. I mean, I don't know why you would change. Things are going well. Why would you say, you know what? We need a little more chaos on the street. You know, why don't we reduce the police force and let's stop working with the feds? Interesting, but Virginia, it's up to you.
This is Glenn Beck.